We're going to start our regular school board meeting, and just thank you for coming and for being a part of our conversations tonight. And I hope that the board is ready to hear and to respond and to be a strong board. We've got a good agenda. It's on the screen by the side of our proscenium arch. And so we're going to start with our call to order. So first of all, we're convening at 6:30 on Tuesday, January 21st. And so Member Clerk Oswald, will you call roll?
Certainly. If you turn my microphone on.
You turn it on.
But it doesn't turn red. See? You have to okay it. There. Thank you. Member Derek Eater.
Here.
Member Kirby. Here. Member Loeffler Kemp.
Here.
Chair Lofald.
Here.
Member Oswald, that's me. I'm here. Member Sandholm.
Here.
Member Trinka.
Here.
Superintendent Gronseth.
Here.
Assistant Superintendent Horton.
Here.
Deputy Clerk Erickson. Secretary Melinda Tebow.
Here.
And Nabia Tiaz, right? And you're here. Oh, good. Thank you for the tutorial. I'll work on that. And Phoenix Ocean. I represented from Denfeld. I'm sorry. Nabia is from East. We're all here. We have a quorum.
Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll be looking for an approval of our agenda, and so I need a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
So moved.
It's moved by Member Trinka, seconded by Member Loeffler Kemp. All those in favor of approving our agenda tonight respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Abstentions? We approve our agenda 7-0. Next, we're going to ask our Assistant Superintendent, Jeff Horton, to come to the mic, and the board will come on over and listen to our recognition tonight. Thank you.
Members of the board, this month I'm pleased to introduce Alexandria Whitley, Julia Severance, and Autumn Wallace. Alexandria Whitley, Julia Severance, Autumn Wallace, and Aravind Pegas, who is not able to join us tonight, made history this school year. They are the first students from Duluth Area Learning Center to become junior Rotarians. They were acknowledged and congratulated at their first meeting with the Harbortown Rotary earlier this year for their willingness to serve. Harbortown Rotary issued a $1,000 grant to the ALC to be used to further alternative programming, community-based outreach, and educational service projects. Since becoming junior Rotarians, these students have been pitching in and helping their community. Last month, they joined the members of the Harbortown Rotary as volunteers at Bentleyville. Students recently volunteered in the kitchen at the Union Gospel Mission, helping set up, serve lunches, greet people, and clean up afterwards. These activities are part of ongoing service projects incorporated into educational experiences at the Alternative Learning Center by teachers, staff, our Office of Education Equity. We appreciate these exceptional learning opportunities. Congratulations to all of you for making history and for inspiring us to help out in our community. And now to say a few words is Mr. Thoyne.
Last year, we at the Duluth Area Learning Center started developing an environmental education program that takes an interdisciplinary approach to outdoor learning and place-based education, which our students named the Wilderness Elite. With awesome support from Rivers to Lake, the Office of Education Equity, Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation, and the Harbortown Rotary, we've been able to offer monthly field experiences at area nature reserves, parks, forests, rivers, and other environmental-based organizations. Our aim is to build ecological literacy, gain exposure to healthy, lifelong outdoor pursuits, and create connections within our community. Along the way, we've also observed a correlation with improvements in students' academic achievement, increased school attendance, and a strengthened sense of community. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the student leaders here as Wilderness Elite ambassadors, junior Rotarians, and community volunteers who've shown themselves to be proactive, socially engaged young people who proudly represent our school and community. They were instrumental in the early stages of our wilderness program and have continued to push for more opportunities. They invested their energy and creativity into helping the program come to life, established a positive and welcoming culture for new students to join in, and have been giving back through volunteer service work. We're so proud of these students as they've recognized for their achievements, and I want to thank them for how they've contributed to our programs and for their commitment to being outstanding representatives of our school.
So I just wanted to appreciate and thank the students and the advisors, and just remind our community of the rich partnerships we have. We have partnerships with many of the Rotarian clubs in our community, and just one more example of where our partnerships in our schools can enrich the lives of our students. So congratulations, and we're glad to recognize them this evening. Next on our agenda is our audience participation, and so we usually ask one of our student reps to, go on down and let us do. And as we get ready for that, we'll just want to remind ourselves of our community directions and our understanding. And so just a reminder that we build on our shared beliefs and values of unity, high achievement, and responsible use of resources to create Duluth Public Schools and classrooms that are safe, supportive, and inclusive. We will work to inspire every student to achieve their potential and prepare students to lead productive, fulfilling lives as citizens of Duluth and the wider community. As we move to embrace our community and really value and respect your voice tonight at our meeting, we just want to remind you that we have adopted as a policy the civility tool. And I remember when this civility project was undertaken by our students. It was really our middle school students that worked together with our community to come up with what they also agreed was going to be a part of their classrooms and a part of their curriculum. So I think it's so appropriate for us to also embrace the civility code that our students came up with for themselves within their classrooms, their hallways. And so tonight, we will remember that our school board recognizes 11 tools of civility. We want to certainly pay attention. We want to listen. We want to be inclusive with our language and our conversations and our words. Words matter, they're important. We don't want to gossip, so things that happen here, we want a shared community of respect. We want to be agreeable and agree to disagree. We want to apologize and clean up our messes, as we call it, and give constructive criticism, take responsibility, be honest, and we care for each other. I spent a lot of time in our community over the weekend, and we are a caring, supportive community, and a lot of people come out to enrich our lives and touch us in ways. And so just remember to be honest and care for others, and we want you to show your evidence and share your reasoning. And with that, I will invite our audience to share their concerns, their celebrations, their ideas with us tonight.
The directions?
Sure. And first, Clerk Oswald is going to give you some directions. You turn it on, please. You turn it on.
I did.
Oh.
Thank you. I have the public comment information in case this is something you need to know. Persons wishing to address the school board must sign in right up here in the corner of the dais. Prior to the meeting, listing their name, address, and matter on which we will speak. If you have any handouts for the board, please give them to our school secretary, Melinda Tebow, back there. Persons addressing the board will speak in the order in which they signed up. Each person addressing the board gets 3 minutes. Persons addressing the board may not merge their time in order to allow one person to speak for more than 3 minutes. The clerk of the board, me, will start the stoplight timer right here at the start of each person's time. A green light means keep speaking. A yellow light means start wrapping it up. A red light means please stop as soon as you can. Persons addressing the board shall confine their comments to matters pertaining to the agenda or relevant matters of administrative concern. So those are the directions. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first speaker is Betty Green.
Chair Lofald, Superintendent Gronseth, and members of the school board. My name is Betty Green, and I am speaking about a new committee structure and agenda setting. There are connections between these issues in terms of accessibility of information. The proposal to remove specific committee descriptions from the school board committee bylaws seems like a reasonable way to provide some flexibility as to what committees are needed. It is my understanding that 2 new committees are being suggested to replace the current 3 committees, one focused on policies of all kinds, and one combining the kinds of issues currently discussed in the Human Resources and Business Committees. Each of these committees would discuss issues of great weight, making it important for non-committee members to pay particular attention to what is discussed at those meetings if not everyone is able to attend, which they can only do if the meetings are recorded. Thus, I also recommend another change. I think it should be explicitly written in the school board committee bylaws, the bylaws document, that all meetings be streamed and recorded for the public to view. This would give both the public and other school board members access to those meeting discussions and could help to enhance the public's trust. Having open agenda sessions is a good way to provide pertinent information to all school board members. Right now, the administration sets agendas with input from only 2 board members. That means that committee chairs don't have input to the agendas for their meetings. Opening up agenda setting would allow for true leadership roles and could also help to enhance the public's trust. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Becca Kahn.
Thank you, members of the board. Thank you to the community for letting me speak. I recently found out about the boundary study late November. I thought it was my duty to write a letter, and I did, and I just thought it was pertinent again to just refresh and let people know why it's important that Lowell stays the way Lowell is. I started my letter to whom it may concern. I am proud mother of 3 Lowell Lions, and I live within walking distance of Lowell. My firstborn attended Lowell 20 years ago in kindergarten, and the Lowell tradition continued with my second, and I'm hoping it will conclude with my 3rd child. In the 2016-17 school year, the immersion program came to Lowell, and my kindergartner chose Spanish. After almost 3 years in the program, I had to make the tough decision after a few interventions that the Spanish program was not working for my child. I pulled him out of the program this past February, and it was a hard transition for him and for myself. And I could only imagine how hard it would be for a parent to pull their child out of not just the classroom, but the whole school, to have to go to a different school. It would be, how hard it would be for future students and parents for the transfer schools if immersion didn't work out for them. It is my belief that Lowell should stay just the way it is with the programs it has. Gracias, miigwech, thank you.
Our next speaker is Cheryl Yeaton.
All right. Hi, good evening. Dr. Cheryl Yeaton, she, her pronouns. It's nice to see some of you again and others for the first time. And I just also want to thank the student representatives for serving in this capacity. I actually went to the Duluth Public Schools and graduated, attending all schools in the Central Corridor, Birchwood, Washington, and Central, which are all closed, sadly. But the topic that brought me here tonight is also the boundary study, and I know there's been some controversy over the proposed scenarios, but I just wanted to come to speak again also to the value of that Lowell Elementary can add to the district if it remains intact with all of its programs, regardless of any specific scenario. I first want to acknowledge also that I know this process has been receptive to change because I've seen some of the iterations over the last couple months. I believe that that's actually happening. And I just also want to say that schools in the middle add real value to Duluth as a city. I have a long history in Duluth, obviously. They effectively straddle that east-west divide that can sometimes become an issue. And Lowell's central location with all of its programs, the English, the Masaba Congo Ojibwe, and the Spanish Immersion, Nueva Visión, places it in the position being in the middle where it can help with some of the district issues. And in fact, we already have a partnership with Myers-Wilkins since 2013 that's been working where families can opt into Lowell currently. And English was the only program available when that started. So if programs were to be removed, then that would essentially negate that partnership that I can say as a parent being there, I think has worked very well and has really expanded some of our friendships and contacts. I just want to also note that in particular, I think racial diversity is a real asset to our school district, and I think finding ways to embrace diversity is a priority of the district. On the other hand, Lowell also borders some of the other schools that are overcrowded, so conveniently it can work with this partnership as well as maybe relieve some overcrowding in the schools that are currently overcrowded. Congdon, I know Homecroft is nearing capacity also. Lester Park might be a bit of a stretch, but it's in a good location that if we retain it as a neighborhood school with English, that it could serve the district in a lot of ways over the years, so not just the current issues, but future. I know it was said in some of the meetings that every 2 to 3 years is when you would revisit boundary changes, so keeping it vibrant and alive, I think could serve future purpose as well. And if we were to shift at this point and close down a neighborhood school and go for immersion only at this point early on, then that school would be drastically undercrowded and the building would sit there half empty, for a while until they would build up enough people to be able to fill the school. Also, just one other quick point about that. I think the fact that Lowell splits, to me, that I think is a strength also. I mean, I've enjoyed that actually we can kind of straddle that east-west and have families that go to both. Most of us will go to Lincoln and Denfeld, which we're thrilled to take on that next venture when that happens. But hopefully, in the meantime, the community can stay together and the school can continue to serve the district from in a variety of ways. So, keep us there, centrally located. Thank you for listening. We'll all be at meetings the rest of the week too, but just wanted to kind of put that out there since it's a fresh topic that's really relevant right now. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mary Owen.
Good evening. I'd like to address two issues this evening. The first, I think, is the most important issue facing the school district, school board, and school administration, and that's a lack of trust, or trust in general. And I don't think that the school board, school district, any of us will get any further without some improvement in trust. We certainly can't address any of the educational disparities that exist in our community, like, again, the 50% or less graduation rate of Native Americans, without better trust. I think that to improve trust, or actually what will worsen trust, is this idea of closing committees or developing an agenda for the school board meetings without input, or at least having the agenda open to community view. One of the problems this school district has faced over and over again is a lack of visibility. I understand the word, there are certain words that people aren't happy with, but lack of visibility into what the school board is doing. And one of the ways to prove that is to open up the meetings. Another would be to make sure that the committee meetings, again, are recorded. The recording isn't just so that people can watch them later, it's to hold accountability. If meetings are open and watched, then we know that shenanigans are less likely to happen, for want of better words. The other issue that I think can help build trust is opening up this boundary study and making sure that more people are included. People that I haven't seen included, even though there was a meeting with 75 people chosen by the school district administration, I understand, that's great, but the people that aren't there are the people that can't get there. I think we need to have intentional inclusion of the people that can't get there and who are likely to be affected. For instance, people who can't afford the drive to, any drives that they might be impacted with by a change in school district, or the changing of the schools that their kids have to go to. The last thing that I want to address, I'm sorry for speaking so fast, but I want to get all this in before I see that yellow light. The green light's blinking. Second issue is, formation. I saw this in the paper. I want to thank Board Member Trinka for raising it. I think one committee that you should include or consider is a long vision committee. And this would allow the school board to get on top of issues rather than always having to react to them. For instance, you could develop an equity. You could have a plan for developing equity within the school district. Any strategic planning. The Illinois School Board, or Association of School Boards, came up with 10 ways that a school board could move toward racial equity. You could consider something like that. On their list is to maintain a strong commitment to racial equity, adopt an equity statement, which I know we've already done. Know your district demographics. School members must be willing to engage in their own personal journey to expand their knowledge and understanding of issues affecting race. As a board, commit to develop goals and policies with strong equity lens and identify and dismantle the policies that support the disparities. Fiscal accountability, change the school budget, options to prevent disparities, and on and on and on. I think you do need some strategic planning to get on top of the things that we're always harping about and to make us come up here and smile at you instead of always be grumpy with you. So, miigwech for your time, and take care.
Our next speaker is Lauren Martell.
Good evening. I'll be reiterating a few things here that have already been said. I'm glad to see a policy committee is being considered. Some of us have advocated for a policy committee for a number of years. Whatever decisions you make, however, I would like to reiterate Member Oswald's concerns about going backwards. I'm not sure a meeting has to be posted without a quorum, but you have to continue to post them for the public and the media. The meetings also have to be video recorded, so as Member Oswald also said, they are conducted on the record. If they're on the record, there is no subjective interpretations about what was said or done. Everything can be verified, and that is very important for accountability. I also think that opening the agenda sessions should be part of this discussion. Someone recently told me that no other school district in Minnesota has open agenda meetings. Well, here's your chance to blaze a trail. And I would remind you that your predecessors had no problem blazing a trail. Stan Mack, one of the candidates vying to replace Keith Dixon, In 2011, someone who had been in the system for more than 30 years called the red plan unprecedented in the state of Minnesota. It may very well have been unprecedented in the nation what your predecessors did and how they did it. What they did and how they did it left many wounds that are still festering. The best way to heal those wounds is to face up to what has happened and make some adjustments to how you govern. Your predecessors blazed a trail away from democracy, even stealing the public's right to vote. Definitely don't go backwards here. I think you should take the opportunity to go forward. Let's see a public board blaze a trail towards democracy and transparency. You have a chance to take a step towards better government by opening the agenda meetings, and the public wants you to. Please take that step. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ryan Bishop.
Good afternoon. As I said, I'm Ryan Bishop. I've got 4 children in the Duluth School District, so been following along with the boundary study as it's been going on, and I thought this would be a good chance to get up. And after watching, since the emails came out last week on some of the, community engagement, I was a little bit disappointed in what I've seen, so just wanted to put something together here and discuss that a little bit. So I've seen a lot of discussion that for unfavorable outcomes, people will sell their house or enroll in different districts. And I ask community and the board, don't focus on escaping the problem, but help with the solution. Concentrate on what is and can be done to close the disparity between schools, between East and West, instead of trying to avoid targeted schools or schools you don't look favorably on. So the stated purpose of the boundary study is to fix capacity issues seen at some schools and better balance high school enrollment. So I urge the board to focus on the purpose of the boundary study. I further ask that whatever the outcome of the proposed solution, don't stop there. I ask the board to further consider and work towards addressing what people seem most concerned about with the disparity between Ordine and Lincoln and East and Denfeld. So learning doesn't just take place in the schools, it takes place at home as well. So let's teach our kids how to solve problems, not how to walk away and avoid them. So as I mentioned here, boundary study, it's about fixing capacity issues. So let's focus on that and then take the next step. Let's fix what people are perceiving as wrong with it. So thank you.
Our last speaker tonight is Kevin Skewer Brown.
I think you had one more sign up later. Chair Lowfold, board members, my name is Kevin Square Brown. I'm speaking on my own behalf tonight. And tonight I want to share a few thoughts regarding the school boundaries. I saw recently where the superintendent was quoted in the Star Tribune as saying, some are saying we should just fix the areas that need fixing, and others are saying this is an opportunity to completely change the playing field. I would like to suggest that given the scope of the structural inequity in the district and the impact such inequity has on learning, changing the playing field is the area that needs fixing. To do less is to say too many kids at Congdon is a crisis, and the unequal educational opportunities at Lincoln Park Middle School and Denfeld compared to their counterparts in the East is merely an inconvenience. If this administration and this board is to walk their talk about equity, then trimming the grass and leaving the playing field slanted is not an option. Given the moral obligation and the district commitment to use each of our decisions to address inequity, it might be that we need a little more time and process to create a set of boundaries that advance equity. Remember, the tool for equity accountability requires the collaborative engagement in the decision by representatives from impacted groups who have experienced historic marginalization. Ironically, I think The one thing that folks across the district might be willing to agree on is delaying the boundaries process. It seems to that many folks are focused on what their legal or biological offspring have to lose in the process. For some, the segregation that the current arrangement perpetuates is something that they fear giving up. For others, the lack of genuine engagement with marginalized families and communities is troublesome. I was reminded yesterday at the NAACP's MLK event at the DAC of this quote from Martin Luther King Jr. An individual has not started living until they can rise above the narrow confines of their individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. That is our invitation and challenge as a community, to advocate and act beyond what we imagine are the narrow confines of our individualistic concerns. I ask you as a school board to hold us as a community to that higher standard. I am the father of 2 white daughters who grew up in a well-resourced family. They attended Myers-Wilkins, they attended Nettleton before it became Myers-Wilkins, Morgan Park, Lincoln Park, and Denfeld, and they did just fine. They made friends with kids who were different from them, and that enriched rather than diminished their lives. They each attend college in much bigger cities now and tell how college peers whose school experiences shielded them from diversity are less well prepared now to navigate the diversity they find themselves in. Another advantage of greater diversity within our schools is that it fosters more investment in creating equity. I don't imagine that my own engagement around the inequity within our schools would be so strong if I was less aware of it on such a regular basis. And that came from having our children at our most high-need schools. So rather than give in to the call to shield certain elementary kids from diverse learning settings, invite them to help make those spaces inclusive and nourishing for all of our students, with whom their kids will then share an educational setting. To quote another moral champion, we all do better when we all do better. Thank you.
And I'm sorry to have concluded our speakers too short. I invite Mike Papore to speak to us.
Chair Leffold and members and superintendent, thanks for extending the welcome here. I appreciate your time and appreciate the opportunity to come up here as well. And I'd just like to take a couple minutes and talk about this magnificent building that we're sitting in right now. The beautiful old historic Old Central High School. Tens of thousands of kids that have come through here, and still, residents that have graduated from here and still reside here. I'd just like to point out a couple things. Since last week's committee meeting, I've diligently been trying to find specific numbers of how they came up with $48 million as a renovation cost to this property. I've yet to been able to acquire them from anybody or anything or any entity. A year ago it was at $22 million. Now it's doubled that price, within a year, and I don't understand how that discrepancy transpired or how that came about. And I reached out to the architects and everything else and trying to, come up with how they came up with the $48 million with, an exterior study and the interior study and how that transpired. And I haven't been able to come up with that. But with that said, what I'd like to point out is the district has pointed out that this building, would be better off in somebody else's hands than a private developer's hands because of the historic tax credits and opportunity zones and, all these other different funding mechanisms that would help. But I also wanted to point out, too, that the district is in a very unique position to actually save this building and preserve this building due to its capacity to be able to bond, with state bonding monies. And I just wanted to point that out. I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of that, and that I think before you guys move forward to list this building, I think a little more due diligence should be done, and with the actual costs and what the property could actually serve as, not just as district offices, but as other offices and vice versa, and what the different options could be or would be for the district as a whole. So I hope you can spend a little more time considering before you put it on the market, because once you put it on the market, it kind of just opens up a whole can of worms, that well, we've seen some of the prices that some of your buildings have sold for, such as Nettleton right up the road, and we don't want something as something like that to transpire with this building as such, because its value is, being the second most iconic structure in the city. I think this building deserves an utmost attention and utmost care and protection of its resource for this city. So I hope you can reconsider and just kind of put off the listing at this point in time. I'd be happy to share with you more information, from the State Historic Preservation Office, and other entities as well, how this building could be marketed, with the district itself, or, and that as the district could move forward with this building in its possession. So I look forward to hearing from everybody and whatever we can do to help. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Before I conclude tonight's participation, are there other audience members that have decided they'd like to speak? Because this is your opportunity. Thank you. Thank you again for your comments, your reflections, your willingness to get up and speak with us. We appreciate it more than you know. Our next agenda item is reading communications and petitions. We have two.
Thank you, Chair Lofald. Yes, you received two. One, a letter from Tom Johns regarding his concerns with his tax statement, and another from the Bullos regarding their concerns with their tax statement as well.
Thank you, Superintendent Gronseth. You can keep your mic on because you're up next with the report of the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Lofald. We have heard from many parents and community members excuse me, regarding the boundary study, and there have been thousands of visitors to the website. I believe about 10,000 unique visits to the website and about 1,500 surveys completed. This is good news. Feedback and input is what Cooperative Strategies needs to be able to create a scenario that reflects the community's input. I do want to emphasize that the three scenarios that are currently being reviewed are not final recommendations. Each shows different aspects for elementary, middle, and high school boundaries. The survey and the public meetings being facilitated by Cooperative Strategies later this week will be gathering feedback on the elements of each scenario and not the scenarios as a whole. They will start with a short presentation by Cooperative Strategies, followed by small group discussions where feedback forms will be filled out and gathered. Based on the feedback from surveys and the public meetings, a scenario will then be created that reflects the most preferred elements from each one. Once a final recommendation has been presented to the board, then there will be further opportunities for public comment and feedback and reaching out. And then once a decision is made, following all of that, an implementation planning would begin, and then implementation timelines would really be dependent on the scope of the changes to be made, given the timing of anything like we heard about Lowell and how if a lot of kids left, it would be empty for a while. So keeping all of that in mind. Also, the financial implications, transportation implications, a lot of details to work through once we have a direction. So today, students will probably be able to tell us, is the first day of second semester. So we are officially halfway through the school year, and report cards will be coming out soon, so people can be watching for those as well. High school registration starts soon. Course catalogs for the 2021 school year are on our website. So are the middle school catalogs. Families new to our district are encouraged to use the online enrollment. That includes families getting ready to send their children to kindergarten next year. I know there's a lot of excitement about that. Our website is ISD709.org. Click How to Enroll. And those interested in kindergarten roundup events can go to isd709.org/kindergarten for all the details on all the school's events. Tonight, we are welcoming 2 new student representatives to the school board for the coming year. Phoenix Ocean is representing Denfeld, and we practiced. Nabiha. Imtiaz. Thank you. I'll get it. I promise. Is representing East. Each month they will provide an update from their school. Tonight they'll start by telling us a little bit about themselves. And why don't we start with Phoenix from Denfeld. Student Representative Ocean.
Hi, I'm Phoenix Ocean, a junior at Denfeld High School. I participate in theater, music listening contest, math team, Knowledge Bowl, NHS, and I am the current vice president of Denfeld Drama Club. There's a lot of good things to report from Denfeld. Last week, Link Crew hosted Cocoa and Cram to help students prepare for their finals. Yesterday, Denfeld's girl group helped lead the Martin Luther King Day March. Mr. Youngman, a Denfeld teacher, has been nominated for the 2020 Minnesota Teacher of the Year Award. One of Denfeld's Knowledge Bowl teams won their last meet. Boys swimming is going to True Team State. Robotics has started their build season. Various music groups have been playing and singing at local elementary schools. The music listening contest teams will compete this Friday and are hopeful to advance to state again. The show choir is looking forward to their first competition this Saturday, and the one-act play will be competing at subsections this Saturday.
Thank you. And Nabiha?
I'm Nabiha Imtiaz. I am president of Amnesty International at East. I'm part of Knowledge Bowl. I play in the orchestra. And at East right now, we also had a Cocoa and Cram before finals. Our swim team will be going to True Team State. Our music groups had a nice holiday season. They toured elementary schools along with other gigs. We had our holiday concert. That went well on December 20th. This week, on January 24th, we're having a henna night after school to finish up Integrity Month. And yeah.
All right, thank you so much. We look forward to the next year of getting to know you better and hearing your input on so many topics throughout the year. So thank you. And Chair Lofalt, that completes my superintendent report for January.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Gronseth. It's always enjoyable to meet our student reps. Thank you for serving. Thanks to your school community for their efforts in bringing you to our board. And next on our agenda is just a reminder of our schedule of events. We're a busy board in the next few months. So just a reminder that we have the focus group starting next week for our community. Those are for our community, and board does not have to be present for those, but we know that you're supporting, and if there's things that you need, we'll let you know. I want to highlight that Tuesday, January 28th, we do have a scheduled meeting of the whole for the superintendent search updates, and it has been tentative on your board book for the time only, and we've gone ahead and set that time at 4:30 on Tuesday, January 28th. The rest of the board meetings are on your board book, but I just wanted to highlight that the boundary study community meetings are tomorrow night. Those are for our community and for our leadership. And our walk-in focus group, our focus groups next week are for our community to come in and share with the consulting firm. We do have an open session for our community to come in and ask the consulting firm and listen to some recommendations for building the leadership profile. Those are also not attended by the board. So just a clarification. Next on our agenda is we're going to our standing committee reports. Our first standing committee is from Member Loeffler-Kemp, Chair of the Education Committee. Thank you.
Chair Lofold. So our January Education Committee, the first Education Committee for the year, was last Monday, January 13th. And we invite, again, community members, parents to attend these committee meetings and listen to the discussions and the presentations. They're always, at this point, unless we make changes, at 4:15 Monday is the Education Committee, and then you'll hear about the HR and the Business Committee when they're held. But again, I just always like to welcome folks to come and listen to the presentations and the discussion we have. We always begin with some updates from our Assistant Superintendent and then also our Director of Curriculum. So Assistant Superintendent Jeff Horton shared a number of items, and again, all of our meetings are recorded, so you can get more details, but he touched on safe and welcoming schools and our COPS grant. He gave updates on the work we're doing with the Minnesota Department of Human Rights with issues around suspension. He talked about the Pathways to Teaching program that we have, and that we're working, have a partnership with St. Scholastica on. Touched on work in labor management, and then highlighted some highlights, one being that we now have therapeutic services that are happening around mental health that are going to be deaf, blind, and hard of hearing. So really appreciated the updates that you provided there. And I just also wanted to thank Assistant Superintendent for putting together a workshop last week at our School Board Association's conference that some of us were at. He put together a panel that included David Spooner from our facilities, Jason Barsness from our health and safety staff, Mike LaFontaine with the Duluth Police Department. I was a part of that panel as well, and it was a response to safety concerns in our community, and we got a lot of great feedback on it, and I just want to thank Assistant Superintendent Horton for taking a lead on putting that together and getting folks down there. And then again, our Director of Curriculum, Gail Netland-Freud, gives her update every month, and as mentioned by the superintendent, our course catalogs for our middle school and high school are out. We're excited about that. She also gave an update on the immersion program information night, which was held on January 9th, and was very well attended. Also want to thank Gail for her participation at the School Board Association. She was a part of a workshop on our immersion programs, and so we really were able to highlight with our staff a number of the really wonderful things in education that we're doing here in the district. The next item, informational item that happened at the Educational Committee was a presentation by Mary Struford and Carol Schroeder, who work with Companies to Classrooms. And this is a nonprofit organization that's located in our lower level here, and it provides all kinds of free supplies to teachers and other school staff in 14 school districts in the area. So go to Companies to Classroom if you want to learn more. They're doing wonderful work, and they did a full presentation to us. And again, we're really appreciative of the resource they are for our staff in our district and other staff as well. And then the next items on our agenda were grant applications, which we have every month, and we had 3 grant applications. One was with our Lowell Immersion Program. The second was with Stoll Elementary and the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. And the third is with Laura MacArthur Elementary, and it's with a playground system at Laura MacArthur. And again, we just really thank our staff, our teachers, our principals, and other staff who help write these grants to enhance the work that we're doing in the district. Okay, I will move on to the next item. That was my clue. The next item is, that we have, again, on the agenda always is an action item. And we have a first reading on the policy 1035, and this is relationship with media, and really the change in this policy was how students were identified. But it's our first reading, so we'll have an opportunity to talk some more. And then our next two items also are going to be on our consent agenda, but one is a resolution of acceptance of grant awards, which we do each month. And then the last item, which again will be on our consent agenda later on, is diploma request. And we have 5 students who have graduated in December or this month. And I will just recognize them. Our first student is Babahasi May. The second is Paul Joseph Schraffenagel. The third is Andrew J. Lundgren. The fourth is Clifford Carl Lagarde. And the last is Devon J. H. Shepard. And if we could just do an applaud for those students who graduated. We have many graduates throughout the year. And then our future items will be, just 1 minute here. Policy updates, immersion transition, early childhood updates, and 3D coaching presentation. So that was the Education Committee, and thank you for folks who attended that committee.
Thank you, Chair of the Education Committee, Loeffler Kemp. I failed to kind of share with our board that we have moved to a consent agenda and we can comment or ask questions during our different committees' presentations. But right now we're moving on to the human resource, and if you have questions or want to add something or reflect or discuss, then you just turn your mic on and I'll recognize you while Member Kirby is talking. Same thing with our business. And then when we get to our consent agenda, then we'll approve all committees and all our resolutions and our different various things on our consent agenda. So with that being said, Member Kirby.
Thank you, Chair Lofald. The Human Resources Committee met on January 14th, and it was fairly short, really. We reviewed the staffing items, which was fairly small at this time of year. We approved the second reading, or recommended approving the second reading of our nepotism policy number 426. There was some discussion about that, of whether or not we needed a regulation to go along with this, and it was the consensus of those present that we did not, that we could give the administration direction if there were problems with this. Our other item really was an update on the superintendent search, which Chair Lofald has already reviewed. There have been, I was told, more than 900 people responding to the survey about the superintendent search, more than 900. That is open until noon on January 24th, so I would encourage people who have not done this to do it before then. The focus groups, again, will be on January 27th, and a committee of the whole for the school board to get a report from BWP, the consulting firm, will be the next day at 4:30, evidently. The vacancy for the superintendency has been listed on the BWP website, but not wider at this time. The board is going to take all of the information from the survey, from the focus groups, and from each other to develop a leadership profile, and this will be posted to a wider audience at that time. So that was the Human Resources Committee.
Thank you, Member Kirby. I would just like to, again, kind of share from our co-chairs, and if Member Oswald has something too, we might. But I think that our posting for the application, I don't want to mislead our community, that I know that our job applications for our superintendent's vacancy has been posted on many more websites than BWP. one more than that. And until we get a complete profile, leadership profile, which is where we're going with our focus groups and our meeting with the consulting firm, will spread to a wider community. But we do have them on, I think, websites and associations that superintendents throughout the country access. And I know that our BWP consultants are also very, very good at sharing our opening verbally with people when they're at conferences and meetings. So I think our job opening is known throughout the country. Thank you, Member Kirby. Our next committee report comes from Member Oswald. It's our Finance Committee. Member Trinka. What did I say? Okay.
She's also on the Business Committee, so that counts. I'm going to move through this a little bit faster in an attempt to adhere to our consent agenda in practice, but we'll be open to having more discussion about this. I know a number of folks were unable to attend due to their requirements to attend the Minnesota School Board Association conference. So the majority of the Business Committee work falls into the consent agenda, and so I won't spend a whole lot of time on it. First and foremost is the financial report. I think it's important to note that we can more than likely anticipate some augments to the budget coming in February based on an increase in our pupil count that we've experienced this year, based on now that we're through the first half of the year, as Superintendent Gronseth pointed out. We'll be looking at some potential modifications in February. We also talked about fundraisers and did some finance education on school finance at the legislature, and that paired really nicely with what we will likely be approving, which is our policy agenda for this year. There were no bids, RFPs, or quotes, so we moved into policies and regulations, where we talked about some regulations that support policies that we've already accepted. And then we had our first reading of the School Board Committee's bylaw. I think it's important for everyone to know that we have to do at least 2 readings of changes to the bylaws, and so it was just our first reading. So I appreciate those who wanted to share their feedback tonight. Please keep it coming, but we'll be discussing this again in February. Also on the consent agenda are contracts, change orders, and leases, where we didn't have any this month. And then also on the consent agenda are resolutions, including acceptance of donations, changes to authorized bank signatures, the authorization of the listing of historic Old Central High School, which I think CFO Erickson, would you like to comment on the district's ability to apply for bonding for this building?
Not sure what you're...
There was some discussion during the community comments about our ability to go to the public to ask for money to help support or for bonding for this building. Did I hear that wrong? Nope, that's what was said. I thought I saw you gesturing over there that you had an answer.
Did not.
You did not. Okay.
In relation to this building, the access that the school district has for traditional funding would require either long-term facilities maintenance, which we do have levy authority for, which would allow us to sell general obligation bonds and use that long-term facilities maintenance funding as a repayment source. We would have to keep that within what is approved for any changes or improvements to this building, knowing that long-term facilities maintenance is limited to those things in statute that are repairs and not necessarily improvements. So that would be a key piece to that. In terms of other areas, I would say I would have to defer to having further conversation. We're rather limited in our accessibility to other funding to provide work specifically to this building, and then also we would have to keep in mind that we would have the ongoing operational costs, which are a general fund cost, not a bonding cost, which is also a consideration in comparison to the size and utilization of this building versus what we currently use it for. Does that help answer?
That's perfect.
Thank you.
I think it's important for us to note also that the information that we received from Mr. Spooner a number of months ago about what it would cost to update this building, as well as the potential to sell this building, came at the request of the school board. Finally, we briefly discussed, as I mentioned earlier, our 2020 legislative platform, which we saw actually in December, but then we got the final pretty version of it to vote on tonight. And then not on the consent agenda were informational items, including expenditure contracts, no-cost contracts, revenue contracts, our facilities management and capital project status report, which I highly recommend everybody check out. It's one of my favorites. And then in February, in terms of future items, we'll be discussing the audit engagement letter. We'll have the audit engagement letter as well as any additional policy updates.
Is there any discussion on Member Trinka's Finance Committee report, Business Committee report? Member Eder.
I just, for my own clarification, if we do choose to list this building, that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to accept any sale or go through. This is just giving us options, correct? To sort of think about what our long-term footprint is going to look like as a district. Is that correct?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. I could have expounded a little bit more. Yes, this is not the authorization of the sale. It's simply the authorization to list it. And part of this came from thinking back to when we originally asked Mr. Spooner to bring us additional financial information, is because we wanted to be aware of all of the assets that we had across the district. I'm just going to look to you to nod your head to make sure I'm not speaking out of school. And we couldn't do that because we have projected financials based on what we anticipate the value of the building would be. But as we know, and as was pointed out, projections don't always equal actuals in terms of what offers might look like. And so the impetus of the discussion was around, let's just see what buyers might be interested in, recognizing that other buyers have access to different types of funding streams and mechanisms that we as a school district do not.
Member Loeffler-Kemp.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on the legislative agenda, the new legislative agenda. I'm going to hold it up here because it's so colorful. Thank you again. And it's so important. Keep doing this. The legislative agenda is so important. Keep buzzing it. I just wanted to highlight that every year we put together our legislative agenda, and it's based on feedback from staff and board members.
Pull your mic up above your, there you go.
Okay. So the kind of 6 key areas, and again, you can go online and read more, but that we're going to be focusing in on has to do with special education funding, work that we've started the last few years, increasing the basic formula allowance, expanding eligible uses for long-term facilities, maintenance revenue, school-based early education programs, so early childhood, preschool, more mental health professionals, and also increased support for our full-service community school models. And I just wanted to touch on those headlines. You can read up more, but just know that with our lobbyists and with many of us, staff and board members, we look forward to the next couple months of lobbying down at the state capitol on these items and other items related to them. So thank you for putting together this pretty piece. Okay. It's a great tool.
And I guess this is working well, as far as being able to kind of take bits of our committee reports and then have some questions or conversation. So because we also had community speakers on our first reading of some potential committee structure, and I know that I was on a subcommittee for this, and we worked hard and we saw lots of great things and lots of things we do well as well. But I think that, one, we're only in our first reading, and I'm not always sure either that second readings just automatically mean that we are, the next meeting we have to do something. We can continue our conversation. I think that there's a lot of information we need to share with our community about what our intent is. I know for me personally, I don't mean to make our board less transparent, and I don't want to limit access to our public for information. So that being said, I want, at least for my reasons of maybe looking at a different way to handle our committees, I like that, we have some support for policy committee work and help, and so those are good goals for our board. But I also agree with Member Trinka about the fact that when we need a strategic plan, and we need it sooner rather than later. And so I'll be working very hard with our team here at the district office for a calendar to put that on. And I'm talking within the next 2 weeks. I'm really wanting our board to be, we have a lot of big agendas on a lot of big issues on our agendas, and I just want us to have some visioning and some goals. Not that we don't already, we just need to reflect on them. We have new board members, we need to bring them in, we need to ask each other questions and be able to do that. So thank you. Seeing no other comments, we move on to the consent agenda. And so are there any board members that would like to pull any item of our consent agenda? And we do have them. They are the mundane sort of things. They are resolutions. They are passing our board minutes. We all have a copy of what's on the consent agenda in front of us. It's just approval of resolutions, approval of minutes from past board meetings, approval of action items. Member Sandholm, you probably don't have one. Yeah. I think it was listed on our board book, but you had to scroll past a few things on the agenda. And so on our consent agenda, approval of minutes from past board meetings, approval of resolutions within each committee, Education, Human Resources, Business Committee, approval of action items, diploma requests, staffing reports, approval of policy readings, our first reading of our relationship with the media, and we had no second readings. Human Resource Committee, first readings on none, and our Business Committee, an approval of committee reports. So that's what's on our consent agenda. Do I have any board member wanting to pull anything? So then next I would ask for a motion to approve our consent agenda and a second.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Member Eder and a second by Member Loeffler Kemp. All those in favor of accepting our consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
All right. I'm going to read and move Resolution SP-1-20-3713, authorizing school board members. I was feeling pretty good about myself and not being buzzed. Authorizing school board members' attendance at the Minnesota School Boards Association Officers Workshop. Resolved that Independent School District 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, pay costs incurred as per district policy for new school board members to attend the Minnesota School Board Association's Officers Workshop held in February 2020. I move Resolution SP-1-20-3713.
Is there a second to our motion? Second. So it's moved by Member Trinka, seconded by Member Kirby. Is there any discussion?
My question revolves around the wording of for new school board members. Should we include new school board member officers? Because I know that I want to go to clerk training, but I'm not a new school board member. So would I have to make a motion to do that? It says new school board members.
You have to make an amendment.
Make a motion to it.
I'll just make a motion to amend and remove the word new.
Member Oswald has made a motion to amend the resolution to take out the word new. Is there a second?
Second.
All those.
Who got the second?
Member Eder.
Okay.
All those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any why can't I say that word? Any abstentions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. The amendment passes. Now we have to move the motion again. So do I have a motion to accept SP-1-20-3713?
I already moved it.
Yep, she moved it, and Kirby seconded it.
So it's been motioned and approved.
We have to vote on it.
We voted on the amendment, but we have to vote on the.
That's what I was asking for. Oh, okay, it is moved in second. So let's vote on the amendment, or on the resolution. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All those abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes 7-0. It will be a great opportunity to learn about being how to handle amendments and motions. Next on our agenda are just any questions, any concerns. Member Loeffler-Kemp.
Yeah, not a question or a concern, but I just wanted to thank our new board members, Paul Sandholm and Kelly Derek Eater, for attending the new school board member training last week. It's required that you do it, but it's also really important training for your role in learning about being a school board member. So I really want to, from the board, thank you for putting in the time to learn how to be a better school board member. Our school board association provides excellent training, as I know from talking to you. So I wanted to thank you. And I just also wanted the public to know, many of us were at a training conference that's held every year. It's the 100th year of our school board association, so it was kind of a special year for our conference. And for us attending, it's also really good training. It's really good networking. It's really a good opportunity to get new ideas. And so we all that attended, David Kirby, Joe, myself, and members, Superintendent Grunset and Assistant Superintendent Horton, just really, came back with a lot of good stuff. Did I miss somebody? Paul, and Paul too, stayed for the conference. It also, as I talked about in my education update, gave us a chance to really showcase some of the work of our school district through workshops that we were able to do. And I just wanted to highlight that besides the one we did on safety and in our community response, that workshop, we also had staff presenting on the vaping epidemic. Principal Siebel from Duluth East, along with one of our partner agencies, Essentia, did a training. Ron Lake with our climate person for the district, along with a staff person from public health. We did a workshop on mental health partnerships, which, and we touched on sources for strength at both our high schools. We just got tremendous people really learned a lot from around the state, asked a lot of questions on that workshop. We also had a presentation on a showcase on some of the career tech work that we're doing. And I highlight that just because around the state, we have challenges as a district. We are seen as doing some really great work here in Duluth. And I can't tell you how many people that either attended one of these workshops or saw them and didn't get to them and asked for resources from them, just really said, wow, you're doing some really great stuff in Duluth. And that's not why we go to these workshops, but it definitely is great to see that the work that we're doing might be helpful for another small or large district, just like we're learning from other districts as well. And so I just was really proud of all of the folks that attended and the staff that took the time to put presentations together and had great turnout at those workshops. And just wanted the public to know that we as school board members do take our work really seriously, and we do that training, and we also work to really promote our district in lots of different ways, and this is just one example. So I just wanted to highlight that. I hope that's okay, Chair Lofold.
Of course, it was great. It's always great to lift us up and to remind us of the good things we do as well. Member Eater, did you have something or not? Okay. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved by Member Trinka, seconded by Member Sandholm for adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? It passes 7-0 to adjourn tonight's school board meeting. Thank you for coming.